call this meeting to order and get going. Today is Monday, July 29th, 2024. This is the regular scheduled monthly meeting of the Oldham County Board of Education. We are at the Arvin Center in Buckner this afternoon. And first up, sir, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Board members, any questions, changes? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mrs. Clem, seconded by Mrs. Sheffer. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Davis, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on our agenda is the instructional session. Sir?
Yes, ma'am. So for this session today, we have Mr. Bohannon, and we also have distinguished guests that are going to present to the board about summer construction and provide updates. And we'll also ask Ms. Alexander to come forward after that to discuss facility planning, just to keep our board informed as we're moving forward. So, Mr. Bohannon, thank you for being here.
Thank you all. This being our last regular scheduled board meeting before the start of school, as hard as that is to believe, I wanted to give you all a construction impact report on those projects that we have currently underway and their impact on school opening day. I don't want to bury the lead there. There is no anticipated impact to opening day, and we will not be asking for any action for the board. So I'll get to the details of that, but I didn't want to bury that lead. We'll also give you an update tonight on the district-wide landscape and site improvements project that Ms. Huntley requested last month. And then, as Dr. Radford said, Ms. Alexander will join us to provide a capital construction funding update. And we've completed our assessment of the Oldham County mechanical, electrical, and plumbing assessment. And those reports are in your packet, but we will give an executive summary update on that. In the audience, I have with me Liz Piper with Element Design, Brett Lawson with CMTA, who did the HVAC portion of that of the Oldham County High School assessment, and Matt Harris with Studio Kramer Architects. The school opening progress, like I said, we have no anticipated construction-related delays that will affect school opening this year, which is great news. I'm happy to report that. Not to say we don't have a lot going on and still going on and will still continue to be going on, but I've got a few updates of the major projects that are kind of wrapping up right around the start of school or will continue through the fall semester. Kenwood Elementary School, we've experienced material delays on roofing metal pretty much throughout the summer on that project, but we do have the roofing manufacturer as well as the roofing contractor have kept us well in the loop of those delays and have coordinated the delivery and installation of those. So they're basically putting them up as they come off the truck. And they have the significant proportion of the large roof panels installed today. They've got valleys and fascia to continue to work on. They do have the front entrance, the vertical panels on the front entrance that are over the sidewalk installed. And we're working with the school to coordinate around their pre-opening day activities to make sure that the contractors kind of stay out of their way for their kindergarten registration and stuff like that. So,
well, what has been done looks very nice.
Well, thank you very much. We'll continue to work on coordinating that, like I said, but no anticipated delays. You'll see me cringe every time I say that, just so you know, for the entirety of this report. Preschool renovation, major work going on. I think you all have heard me refer to this project since its conception as a pre-COVID project in a post-COVID world. We have major interior renovations going on all summer, and with that, experienced material delays, some expected, some unexpected, with the largest delays in that being casework, cabinetry, and flooring. The contractor is working around the clock on there. We have the flooring going in. We have painting on the walls complete, and we've done our above ceiling punch there, and they're ready to start dropping ceiling tile in there. So The contractor has made some temporary arrangements so that we can facilitate normal school operation. Some of the materials that are being installed will not be the final materials, but they are taking that on the chin for us so that we can get the school open, and then as those materials arrive, they can come back and swap them out for us. Oldham County Middle School and South Oldham Middle School, those labs are nearing completion. Substantial construction activity has been completed on both of them. Finishes and furnishings will continue for the next couple weeks, but we don't anticipate that impacting school start as well.
Mr. Bohannon, if I could just interrupt you for a moment, just for our board members, we're working on just some really language or branding for we refer to this in this slide presentation as STEM labs. You may hear makerspace, innovation labs. We're working on having common language, how we would refer to those in our district, and really it's just such a great opportunity for our kids as we get all of those up and going at each of our middle schools.
Yes, I refer to them as STEM labs because that's how it was referred to in the district facility plan, but we've actually been calling them career tech additions and renovations, so thank you for correcting me on that. Okay. Are there any questions about construction schedule related to the start of school? Okay, if not, I would like to invite Liz Piper to give you all an update on the district-wide landscape and site improvement project.
Good to see all of you all again.
Welcome.
So I will do my best to give an update of where we're at, and you will see there's a lot of things on the list up there, and we are working on a lot of things simultaneously right now. So we're working on construction documentation for the first big implementation project, and while we are doing that, we're also working on those like standard details and specifications and that sort of stuff that are a part of the district-wide project as well. So all of that is sort of going on simultaneously, which is why you see so many things up there in bold that we're working on. And I think this is my clicker. And so the focus of these are both sort of circulation as well as sort of signage and wayfinding stuff, with the goal being looking at things that are, one, making all of the campuses, you know, be more cohesive and consistent in, you know, how they present to the public. As well as with, you know, a lot of the circulation stuff, how can we make things safer and more functional? And we're looking at, you know, doing things like sidewalks and fixing different things. Some campuses have bigger problems than other campuses, so you'll see some bigger projects some places than others. And then you'll also see some places, you say, well, why didn't they fix that? And it might be because it's in an upcoming project that we know is coming down the line in the next couple of years. So we're trying to make sure we're not doubling up on work and being smart about making sure stuff gets captured in the right place in the right project. One of the things that we've been working on is different concepts for how to bring some of the new branding that the district has really been working hard on into the landscape and the site, you know, development of all the campuses. So we've been looking at a lot of different signage options for ways to, you know, make it more consistent across all the campuses. As well as ways to incorporate that branding. You see here a couple of ideas, concepts developed on banners that go on light posts, both existing light posts as well as some places they would be new, or just banner poles, as well as some different sign options and concepts that we have been working through in order to develop sort of consistency across the whole district. And then this is just an example of the construction plans that we are working on. And every campus is being touched, and we start with sort of a site overview plan, and then we work our way through all the different projects that are in the plans. And so that is going to be compiled into, we're working on a fairly big set of drawings right now. So that is kind of where we're at. We're just working hard at it and trying to get all those plans put together. I think that was the end of my slides. So if you all have any questions for me, I will do my best to answer for you. Okay.
So who looks at these the final things and says, yes, we like this one, or no, we don't like that one, or how does that go, Brent?
So we've worked through some initial concepts. I think that you sat down with us one time, superintendent sat down with us one time to kind of weed down to something that we're all kind of comfortable with, looking for a standard, to come up with a standard. And then as we work through this last stage of construction documents, we'll start to define, there's going to be a sign here in this place, and it's going to look like this, and then there's going to be a banner here, and it's going to look either like this or like this. And then at that point, we'll have the opportunity to narrow those down. I would anticipate that once we get to that final construction stage, we'll do one last pass with that, and maybe during a work session, we'll actually be able to identify, on this sidewalk, we're going to have this sign here and here. I don't think it's really categorized, or it's the scope of the project. I don't think it really lends itself to go through them all at one time. So it would probably be best if we went through a work session and said, here, for an example, is a school on South Campus, here's one on North Campus, here's one, here's a Centerfield or something, we can look at that. There is a ton of work going on behind the scenes with Liz and her team, and I want to give a big shout out to them. The amount of data that we're collecting in this first part of this process is going to last us years, ages. And also, she's also working on active projects in design with us that are, we're incorporating some of these things currently into design projects. But from the like sidewalks, parking lots, landscape beds, all of that type of stuff is being touched at some point or another during this project. So it's literally going to take us months that we've been through to get all that information in, and now we're going to get it on paper. So for us to sit down and review every single document and every single thing on that, I think we can come to you with examples, and then I would ask that the board give us the opportunity in-house in the facilities department to go through and make sure that we've assigned those standards across the board.
Okay.
Just to go through the last slide here. Did you have a question, Mr. Dodson?
Yeah, one of the questions I saw the pictures of those signs. Are we looking at like north, south, Oldham, all having similar type signs?
Yes.
So they all can be consistent with one another?
Yeah, so what we've kind of, when we started out, we kind of set up some major goals, and this is kind of came back from the feedback from you all, as well as from our surveys that we did with each of the schools, with our staff, that ranged from how does your campus feel when you drive onto it? Do you feel safe walking from the parking lot to the front door? All of that type of information has kind of led to like our big picture goals. And one of the major goals that we have with this project is to design to develop a cohesive plan that looks like Oldham County Schools, no matter what school you're on, but still has the identity of that school represented into it. So we want to have a consistent sign type across the board, but we want the school identity to come through that sign too. So you'll see a lot of the concepts that we have on that plan. You'll notice we have the Oldham County Schools logo represented, although it may be ghosted in the background with the school coat of arms or their letters shown more prominently. So you start to get this cohesive representation graphically that you're on Oldham County Schools campus, but you're on North Campus or Buckner's campus or Oldham County High School's parking lot at that time. And then
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
On the example, it says it's Goshen, but I can't see any of the words on that. What exactly is that showing?
So
I'm just curious.
which one are you on?
It's
The
slide
map.
that they rendered.
Oh,
map.
yeah, that's just
Yeah.
a sample of the input that we've received back from the school community, as well as locating current issues that I know of, that the school knows of, that the community knows of, as well as addressing where the signs currently are, where they could be replaced, where banners could show up. So you'll see the tags off to the left, and like that's one of those shows where the existing marquee is to be removed.
Okay.
The dashed line, for example, in this Goshen, at the top part of the page is to remove and replace the sidewalk up there that the school has asked us to landscape that portion of it and widen that sidewalk because it's too narrow of a pathway to get from the public sidewalk to the front door of the school.
Okay.
So those types of things. And then the whole other side of this coin that's not even mentioned or referenced in this is that we've also got a playground project going on in the backyard. So there's a coordination between different design teams, different projects. That's also, so I have to call her and ask for her designs to send them over to the other design team, and then vice versa from them to her, so that we've got it all coordinated. But each school's getting that type, each school site and campus also is getting that type of individual assessment.
Okay. So it just varies.
Yes,
depending
it
on
varies
school,
site. That's why I say I think a work session would be a good chance to go through 3 or 4 maybe, to do all 19 sites would
We could do a week work session. Y'all can come, actually, y'all can just come hang out with me in the facilities department.
But yeah, what you see there, that would be like the front, you know, the front
Sure.
page of the table of contents for the contractor to say, here are all the projects that are part of this. So there's at least one summary to, you know, get an overview before they start digging in.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're trying to organize this in a manner also so that each site is referenced back to like that set of standards as well, but it can also be pulled apart in a manner that this project can be done. You know, if we have an opportunity to address this school before the next one's playground is done or something like that, we can pull that bid pack out and put it out on the street by itself, or we can put them all together as one and address certain phases too. So each school has probably about 3 or 4 pages that one starts with the overall site plan and then drills down to the details of that as well.
When's the anticipated bond time?
So on the last slide there, we have the design development, which we're asking for approval this evening for. We'll be in the construction drawing and specifications phase of that. We'll come back to you all for approval of construction documents in September. Advertising, bidding, and negotiations for that would fall in the October month with the anticipation to recommend award a contract before Thanksgiving this year, so November 18th board meeting.
All right,
With
my
the
next question is that figure BG1 figure, or is it actual true cost?
Which figure are you referring to now?
The first.
On your list?
Landscape and improvements, $4,875,000.
I would say that that would be a portion of the overall BG1 figure.
All right, so the total is around 20 million.
That was what we were originally tasked to do, to budget a landscape project for.
So we won't.
Portions of this could happen sooner, portions could happen later. Like I said, it kind of depends on when we get into the bidding and advertising, if we want to attack, you know, one project could look like a wayfinding project at every single site. And that would be a lot smaller than a $4 million project. But it could be a wayfinding project at every single site, plus the landscaping, or plus a roadway.
Correct, but if we're gonna bond it, we're gonna bond it all at
Yes,
once,
so
correct?
once we have the construction documents and specifications back to you in September, we'll be able to say, we're anticipating that this cost is gonna be X amount of dollars, and it's gonna include X, Y, and Z in this bid package. And then we're gonna come back, you notice further down your list, there's another bond or another bid that would go out later on that would, might address more of like roadway improvements or something like that as well. But yes, the original scope of the project was just under $20 million, I think, or right at $20 million.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as I mentioned, the HVAC and mechanical, electrical, plumbing assessment is included in your package. And then I also gave you all handouts for that for reference. I'm just going to give you kind of a overall of the executive summary on those 2 documents. And then again, Brett Lawson with CMTA is here if we need to get into nuts and bolts specifics that exceed my expertise. But the big picture is if you want to reference the executive summary, concludes that the majority of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems at Oldham County High School's core and parts of Building 1 are nearing or have reached the end of their life cycle. Therefore, in tonight's consent agenda, we're recommending a renovation and mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and upgrade project initiation, so initial BG1 this evening in the consent item, for the replacement and renovation of those portions of the building. To kind of further down on the executive summary there, you'll see that large portions of that building were renovated in 2007, and with the additions added to it. But there are still some concerns with the way things are controlled in there that they meet today's current standards as far as outside air requirements, and all of our building code requirements are met with it. But with today's technologies and the efficiencies of today's equipment, we can do better, just to say it plainly. A lot of the things that if we were to replace a 1-for-1 replacement with what's there now, it would automatically be better just because of the efficiencies of today's equipment. On the last couple pages of that HVAC assessment, you'll see that That's not the recommendation, just to do a one-for-one, but to improve with the 4-pipe system instead of the 2-pipe system that's currently in place there, which will offer our occupants a lot greater controls, comfort level controls inside the building. I think that most of our, I don't like to say things like most, but a lot of the concerns that we hear from in that building are the differences from one side of the building to another, or from the outside of the building to the inside, and it kind of all comes back to how the system is controlled, and just the age of the control system, that we have opportunities today to do things that weren't taken at that time or weren't available at that time. So the 4-pipe system would be the recommendation on that. And CMTA has put together some budget estimate numbers for that, included on that. Some of the other features that you'll see in the latter part of that report with the plumbing fixture replacement. Again, we have the appropriate amount of working toilets in the building to meet the building code minimum. We actually have excess men's restrooms in the building that's just from years and years of adding on to the building. So, however, none of them are great, and I think that some of them have been grandfathered in to what today's standards are. So some of them look like they're older than they actually are, just because of the finishes on the wall or the finishes on the floor or the age of the toilet fixtures. I know we went through a project not too long ago with replacing a bunch of toilet partitions in most of those spaces, and it helped a little, but it still is laid out the same way that it was in the 60s. So some things start to get dated just by the genre in which they were laid out and designed. So there's opportunities to consolidate and to increase the comfort level inside of some of those spaces if the layouts are adjusted to how we build buildings today.
So we could put privacy partitions for the male bathrooms that I don't want it.
Yeah, and things could be set up to today's accessibility standards, and I don't need 30 or I don't need 15 urinals on a wall, especially if we're with the new construction. A lot of that assembly requirements that were required to meet with the assembly of the gymnasium, for example, is being replaced with the new gym. So those what could have had 18 heads in a restroom could go down to 6 heads in a restroom, and we can meet today's accessibility standards and provide more space in there. And that'll give you the opportunity to provide more partitions and more separations.
What I would share with the board is when we did our road shows and we visited Oldham County High School, that was something that came up from the teachers and the staff, and we went back and met with them a second time, and so that was really one of their asks. So I appreciate the work and the diligence going into creating the assessment so we could help guide us. So with the board's blessing tonight, what we will do is then follow up with the faculty and staff that we're trying to really move forward with what we heard and try to respond to. So folks have worked really hard, but try to be as diligent as we can be.
And yeah, and the only other thing that I would add to that is just to I don't have a Facebook account, but I lurk every once in a while to see what's being said out there, and just to spell, the equipment that we do have in place is functional. We don't have stuff that's just not working. Our maintenance department works very hard to keep, regardless of the age of the equipment, up and operational, with the one exception of the unit, the outside air unit that blew off with a tornado or blew over with a tornado. But other than that, all of those, or even with that, we still meet the outside air requirements of the building. But like I said, again, the pictures aren't great in there, and I'll just say that. I will give Oldham County High School wonderful maintenance staff a huge sorry for us not previously announcing that we were going to come through and start taking pictures of them while they were in the middle of doing their floor waxing and stuff like that, and not focused on getting a restroom clean for pretty pictures. But it's a snapshot of one day in the life of Oldham County High School. So, are there any other questions about that?
Can you ballpark 3 things for me?
Yes, sir.
Can you ballpark when we may find BAHS, SOHS, and if we do this plumbing and HVAC?
Time frame?
Yeah, just.
Okay. So, alternative school and Oldham County High School gym will be, I would say, first of calendar year 25, December, January, that range. I'm sorry, what? what was the next
How about
question?
South, the major?
South Odom would probably be about a quarter behind that, maybe just a couple months. I think that, let's see, if I remember correctly, last month we approved schematic design on that, where we approved design development on the high school. So it'll probably be 2 to 3 months behind that. So
It's on Q4.
Spring
on
of
the
25?
sheet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get.
Oh, I'm
a
sorry, I'm mixing
breakdown
fiscal years and
when
calendar
South
years.
will come up.
And Mr. Dennis, some of that will also depend upon
How the bids
guidance
come
that we get from Baird and market and timing, because we may have the ability to wait, if we feel like, if we waited at that time, waited another month, we might get a little bit better rate depending upon how the market is going.
Well, if we wait a little bit, we may get better construction costs too.
We could.
So, but it seems like we are just full steam ahead, and I'm more concerned what debt we're gonna be at now, since we are moving. What about Oldham County High School plumbing and HVAC?
Since we're just gonna get initial BG1 today, I would say that would probably be on the following fiscal year of that cycle. But I can get that a little more specific once we get a design team on board, which will follow this. And I think that might be a perfect segue to the financial report. Ms. Alexander?
Thank you, Mr. Bohannon. Welcome, Ms. Alexander.
Thank you. I think I've given everybody the sheet that has the proposed project schedule on it with, just the proposed, funding sources. So the sheet shows that our, proposed project schedule for funding sources, this is a fluid document and can be changed and updated at any time. You can see that we have those projects kind of listed out in quarters by fiscal years. Those can also, be changed and moved around as we need. Currently, we have a whole lot listed under the bond sale column. With the current market conditions, we can secure a lower bonding rate percentage than we are currently receiving on the interest and the cash in our bank account. So we are earning almost 5% interest on the cash right now. But of course, we're going to keep an eye on this, and if the markets change, we can adjust the funding sources as needed.
And for reference point, our last bond sale was, that interest rate was approximately 3.9%.
Mhm. And so I know this one kind of says Q1 fiscal '25, and we had talked about maybe doing another bond early in the fall. After speaking with Kelly and waiting to make sure we have, if we might need to move some up into a bigger bond, we're just looking at maybe later November, kind of seeing mid to late November.
Could be. And for our board members, this is what we use to help plan and coordinate, as you've also in your consent items are BG, so this helps us. This is what we use to plan and coordinate. It's also what we use to connect with Kelly at Baird, so that way we're all on the same page when we present to the board. And so also, Ms. Mersick was not available to attend this evening, so if the board, whether this evening or later, would like for her to attend an upcoming session, whether it be a regular board meeting or an upcoming special work session, special call meeting, she's happy to attend. She just had a conflict this evening.
What do we plan on putting in that bond later this year?
So, depending upon, as you heard Mr. Bohannon talk about, and I think your question is really the timing, and some of that's depends upon timing and our readiness for the next bond sale would probably be to support the high school, the gym, and Buckner alternative.
All right, thank you.
And so much of that is contingent upon, as an example for our board, is bids. If we get bids back and the bids are not what we really, what our board and what we would feel like we're comfortable, then we might have to bid it again, so that could delay. And so that also delays the bond sale. So many factors.
Is that first column start dates or estimated start dates, let's say?
Yes, sir. So that first column is broken in by quarters, and that's when we anticipate the projects, correct. However, this is a living document, and when we are in a position to be able to move on a particular project, and the readiness that we have, then that project can be moved to a different quarter if we are ready. So this is just to outline our ability to plan and try to communicate. So we serve at the board's pleasure.
Quarter 2028.
No. You'll see me flying off the table at the quarter of 2028.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander.
Thank you.
Hey, Brent, was there, someone mentioned something about digital signs everywhere? Is that part of?
It's actually part of about 3 projects right now. One of the, if I can back up here real quick. One of the things that we shared with our principals at each level during our operational time this past week, was that part of the sign and wayfinding system, part of that scope would include to remove all of the existing marquee signs. That was the exact response I got from every principal too. So,
Yes, as someone who has stood in rose bushes and changed
Yes,
letters
yeah.
in 23-degree weather, that would be fantastic.
yeah, I think that we've reached a new era of communication with our constituents, and I don't think we no longer need to go out there in the middle of the winter and change signs. I'll just say something
Awesome.
else, but I'll let it go.
Thanks. I just wanted it to be on record that someone said we were going to be getting digital signs. All right. Next up.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to have Ms. Alexander come back and share with the board the treasurer's report. Dr. Shelton's unable to be here this evening, and Ms. Alexander, we appreciate you being here and sharing update to the board.
No problem. I'm just going to present to you the treasurer's report for the month of June. We'll start with report number 1. It's just a summary of all of the fund activities with the beginning balances. It reflects our receipts and disbursements. So you can see the ending balance for our fund was $67.2 million. Also, when you add in the construction fund of $16.3 million, and then ending up with our investments at 15.9, that kind of gives you a total picture of report number 1. When we go to report number 2, it's just more a breakdown of report number 1. It gives you individual funds that are included, and it tells you the general fund and all the funds that are used that are part of the governmental funds in a more detailed fashion. So in report 2, you have the reflection of all of the district activity funds, capital outlay, building fund, construction fund, and debt service as well. And then as we move on to report number 3, we have actually ended our year and our revenues exceeded our budget with 110%. Our salaries came in below budget as well, and our expenses are well within our budget. It also has a breakdown of the individual revenue accounts in the comparison for the prior years. And we have received all of our SEEK funding. Earlier in the year, we received it, the nickels through our property tax, and then we just received the balance from the State Equalization Fund in June. And then if you look behind report number 3, you have report number 4 is our historical trends across all of our revenues for the past several years. And then report 7 is just the traditional balance sheet for all the funds, and report 8 is the income statement for all the funds. This is kind of just a quick summary report for the month of June, because I'll be presenting you later with a little bit more in-depth report for the entire year with the unaudited AFR. And I present this report to you and be happy to answer any questions you have.
Ms. Alexander, thank you. What I'd share with the board is also, as she alluded to when we get to the action items, she will just echo what she stated. She'll give a more in-depth about ours. We closed out FY24 and where we've landed specifically, more detail.
Yes.
You may not know this, because we talked to Tom last time.
Okay.
And Mr. Radford, this might be up your alley. When will our bus purchase money, I guess, reimbursement from restricted be in our general fund?
Yeah, so Mr. Dennis, you're referring to capital funds requests. And so I will have to get a specific answer for you after this meeting. Happy to do that. We reviewed the numbers and the need for that today, but I don't remember the specifics, but I can get that for you.
It's not in there now, though.
It is not. We haven't, as soon as you do the unaudited AFR, and then we get all of those in, and then we're gonna do the transfer, and then it'll be reflected in the AFR.
Do you know if we're still targeted at about 5 million, like Tom thought?
Well, it's like, I think it's like 4.9. Yeah.
You are awesome.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, so my recommendation to the board would be to approve the treasurer's report.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Mrs. Clem? All those in favor? And that's 5-0. All right, meeting minutes. Looks like we've got just the June 24th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. Board members, do you have any changes to those minutes?
Madam Chair, under the KSBA policies, it says removal of gender language. It should be gender identity language from Title IX.
Okay.
And I know we took a vote out of executive session, removing Eric Ferris and installing Rudy Ellis. I don't know if that needs to be coming out of executive session also.
It wasn't action because it's just a change of who represents us, not in the same law firm.
Okay.
Board members, any other changes? Can I get a motion to approve with the change from Mr. Dennis? Made by Mrs. Clem, seconded by Mr. Dennis. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Okay, next are personnel actions, and that personnel report is in your board packet, and just recommend the board take that under advisement as presented.
Board members, any questions? Okay. Consent items?
Yes, ma'am. Consent items, my recommendation to the board is to approve as presented.
Board members, questions?
I just want to let it be known I won't be approving consent items because I can't support continuing an outside counsel with Dinsmore. I believe it's costing us just as much or more than having a private attorney, and we could probably get another 1,000 hours plus work from having an in-house attorney than outside. So, and I also do not support the GSA meal reimbursement, which is pretty much double what ours is if they go to Oregon or Illinois. So I'll be voting no.
Okay.
Where's the one on Dinsmore? Which one is Dinsmore? I didn't see that in here.
I think it's proposed letter of engagement. Right? It's the
Yeah,
fourth,
it's a
yeah.
proposed
What's
letter
the
of
second one
engagement.
you're talking about?
What's the letter?
8D.
8D.
Okay.
And
It's in there.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The other one's meal reimbursements where it gives the college super.
And it's extending it for how long? Is that
No, that's under.
For the upcoming year.
for the full year?
Yeah, the current contract expires this month, end of July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't we do 6 months last time?
We did, and so that we can serve whatever is at the pleasure of the board.
Okay.
I will say that as discussed a little bit when you all approved the minutes, we have made plans for Mr. Rudy Ellis to represent the
Yes.
board, and we have those plans in place.
Mhm.
The other, respect Mr. Dennis and what his thoughts are. What I would recommend to the board is, just from a technical perspective, is that the board vote on consent items as approved. If those do not get approved as presented, then we would need another motion to be able to make adjustments.
Mhm. So are we able to adjust that if we wanted to do it 6 months? Could we change it to 6 months?
You could?
Joe, what's the meal thing? What's the,
It's, I don't have it marked, it's under consent
I
item.
found it, it was,
It's
Is it
F,
not?
it's F, right?
It's meal reimbursement where they go to the governor's GSA value, for meal reimbursements if they go to high-cost state or city and, which would include Texas, Illinois, Oregon, at the behalf if Mr. Radford approves. I think it should just be the standard meal reimbursement.
Which item is that under, Mr. Dennis, again?
It's under consent items, I
it
just have it in
is
my.
8J.
Nutrition
No,
bins.
that's different, sorry.
So
It's,
so it's listed as for non-high rate areas, it's $12 for breakfast, $15 for lunch, and $23 for dinner. And the difference is 14 instead of 12 for breakfast, 18 instead of 15 for lunch, and 28 instead of 23 for dinner.
what is this for?
Just if they travel.
When was the last time it was changed? It changes every year.
Well, they're going from basically the state per diem to a federal per diem, is what my understanding, correct? GSA is federal, state per diem, so.
So the,
Where does it say GSA in here? All of this is KRS stuff.
I don't know, it's in there, I saw it.
I think it's the policy says that it's $40 toward,
it says a day.
I don't know.
it's
if
$40
in there
a day, and then if the superintendent approves for out of state, it would go by the GSA.
Okay. But they're getting $40 a day for meals, is that correct?
35 on
I don't think that seems like very much.
it. It isn't.
No, it doubles. I'm just trying to cut costs of travel, because that's, I still argue that's money we can give back to our teachers.
The state recommendation was higher than that, so
Mm-hmm.
previously we followed the state recommendation for high time cost cities.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to redo it, we could review that policy and make that correction to that policy. And we can talk about the policy.
I mean, I don't think those amounts are too, I mean, to me, those amounts aren't out of line with what people would be paying if they went and did those things. Most of the time, they don't even have to pay for breakfast because it's provided in the hotel.
My thoughts are on the Dinsmore, we did 6 months last time, let's try 6 months again. We made a change with who's representing us, let's give him an opportunity to turn things around, and I think a lot of us really like working with him, so let's try it out and reevaluate after 6 months, but that's just my thought. Open to
Well, if after,
what everybody else thinks.
if after 3 months we don't think he's doing a job, they still give us time to look for somebody in-house.
Right.
Okay, so we have to vote on this as it is sitting right now, so can I get a motion to approve as it is? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Clem. All those in favor?
No, yeah.
All those opposed? Okay, so doesn't pass. Okay, so can I get a motion to, we will change the Dinsmore contract to a 6-month contract? And I'm fine with the dollar amounts. I don't know about anybody else.
I'm okay with it.
All right, so can I get a motion to approve with the change in the Dinsmore contract made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Mr. Dodson? All those in favor? All those opposed? And it passes 4-1.
Ms. Easton, you have that notation. Thank you.
Okay, superintendent reports.
Yes, ma'am. We have one superintendent report, and Ms. Alexander, would you like to welcome you back to the podium? Thank you.
I believe in your packet you have the unaudited AFR report, and you also have the board enclosure for that. As you know, our fiscal year ended on June the 30th, and we're required by state statute to complete an annual financial report and have it submitted to the Department of Education. I'm very happy to say that that report has been submitted. This also, I just want to reiterate that it's referred to as unaudited report because ultimately we're going to bring you the audited report after the audit is completed in the fall, because there will be some additional adjustments and corrections that have to be made. However, I am pleased to present this report to you today. It is a very good news that we have ended really strong with a general fund balance, as you can see highlighted on this enclosure, that we have ended with $31.7 million balance in the general
It's down
fund.
in action items, you
Yeah,
all. It's
Ms.
in
Al-
A.
if I could hit,
Sorry.
it's okay. If I could just hit pause. If you refer to your action item, you'll see that
It's
report.
11, it's 11A.
I got it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
And you're on which one are you on right now?
It's just the enclosure sheet. I'm just kind of
Okay.
going over the enclosure sheet. It kind of just summarizes the whole thing.
Gotcha.
So just the general fund balance, it was a very good year to end with, and we ended very strong. You'll see it has $31.7 million is the general fund balance. On this sheet, you'll also see that we have the revenues and expenditures noted. We had the revenues from the general fund were $106.9 million as compared to our $97 million budget, and we had expenses of $99.8 million compared to our $104.6 million budget. So that is what is reflected in the bulk of the AFR report with our general fund. I did want to highlight and make sure to mention that there is an account adjustment that's made on an AFR, and it's actually what we refer to as GAAP, a generally accepted accounting principle, that we have to record the expenditures and the revenues on behalf the state gives us related to health insurance or that's paid at the state level, or the retirement that's paid at the state level. So this report does not reflect that because it's not anything within our control, and it's not anything that we really report to you on a regular basis, but it is a net of those expenditures. And I also wanted to highlight that we had made an adjustment previously based on the completion of the 23 audit. So when you end the audit and you have your final AFR and you have your ending balance, you use that to adjust your beginning balance for the following year. So when we added that and we adjusted our beginning balance from this year, we ended with a contingency of $17 million for fiscal year 24. And I just want to give a little bit of information, the difference between contingency and fund balance. The fund balance in business and industry, it's the difference between your assets and your liabilities. So if you look at the total amount that you own, your cash, your assets, and you subtract what you owe, that is actually what we refer to as a fund balance. And your contingency, some people in the state call it rainy day fund or your surplus. That is actually our savings that we have that is available to the district. So right now we have $17 million or 17.5% of our budget. I have listed here the other significant district fund balances. You have your activity fund balance at 1.1, capital outlay fund balance 3.9, your building fund balance at 15.1, your construction fund balance at 15.3, your food service at 4.7, and your daycare at 4.9. I mentioned that we would update this report as we work with our auditors, and our audit is scheduled to begin on August the 5th. They're going to start with our activity funds on the week of August the 5th. They'll be in the school buildings, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Yeah.
Board
What-
members, questions?
So what was our contingency balance last year?
16.
So we're up, okay. So You think that's, I mean, have we ever considered with this excess, you know, either subsidizing some of these student fees or Chromebooks one-to-one for middle school and above? Like, could we maybe use some of this excess? Or
We-
consider that,
we-
get an estimate?
We have made plans to be able to use our funds to support technology. If you recall, we've had previous board meetings just in the last couple of months about using some of our capital funds that the state allows us to use for technology to offset and support our schools. So we allocated $100 per student to each school based upon their enrollment to support technology. That would also support the school budgets. So that has been, that's one thing I think that we've done just recently. And we have, as Ms. Alexander has, one thing I also want to mention is Ms. Alexander has talked about, we have our budget is, I would say is really good. We have through conservative budgeting, watching our expenditures and our revenues, we have we have ability to have a carry forward balance that shows that we're really trying to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So that answers part of your question. I think offsetting any other expenses, I think that's something that we can certainly evaluate and discuss as we move forward.
Yeah, I just saw like North High School is not having to pay, every student's getting a Chromebook. North Middle is having to do the lease. So I didn't know if we could start, does Oldham County to South get that as well? Are they using it for different things?
Probably what we need to do is give an update to the board after tonight's meeting about that big picture, because there's probably a perspective we need for the board to see about for each school and each campus, because the needs in terms of student use and what we have in place is that's something that we're that we need to we can share that and put that report together. One of the things that gave us pause coming off of COVID is when we put our strategic plan together. That gave me pause is our students. When I went to each high school, we talked to about 90 to 100 kids, and they all said, and we had some plans in place to go one-to-one and try to support that. But our students said, Dr. Radford, could you please let us just go to class, and can we put our laptops away and not use them? And so that gave us pause in terms of implementation. But at the same time, you want to have balance. I don't think you want to go too far one way or the other. So I think we can put a report together and give a perspective to the board so you can see what that looks like.
And that could include possibly some fees reductions as well.
It could. I think our timing, being able to do that with school getting ready to start, and because I appreciate what you're saying, Ms. Shepard, to support our parents and community, being able to do that and with school getting ready to start in a couple of weeks is something that we just have to, I'd have to put a plan together. I don't know what that looks like, but
Okay.
we
Will you
can.
think about it?
Yes,
Okay, got it.
yes.
That's all I need.
Well, I got a question on the other side of that. I do have a problem getting the contingency money. We never know what's gonna happen. We hadn't had nothing major happen. Tornado comes through here, wipes out a bunch of our buses, a bunch of our buildings. We're gonna have to rent buses. We're gonna have to rent buildings. 17 million will not go a long way on that. And we're gonna need that cash up front. We're not gonna need it, later on. So I have a problem with lowering that contingency. Now, we can discuss how much we're gonna lower it, but I don't wanna lower it too much because of the possibility we might need it, and it would be there for us.
But it's in excess of $1 million from what we had last year. So it's,
That's not, inflation's went up since then too.
and that's why
everything
I
else.
think it would help parents and kids just to subsidize some of this extra fees and extra
It also
Chromebook
could
mounts.
help, as we talked about doing the NTI days for the calendar.
If there is a
At the end of
crisis,
the
yeah.
year,
Mhm.
for the snow days.
Mhm.
I mean, just in the future,
Right.
if we were to go one
It's
to
a lot
one.
of money. I mean,
Correct
it's
me if
it's
I was
great
wrong.
budgeting.
Three years ago, we were at what, 12 million contingency?
I think so.
When, I'd have to go double check this, but when I started 3 years ago, our contingency was approximately 14%.
And the state recommends what? 17.5 is above what the state would recommend, is what,
Way above.
12?
I think it's like 10 or
10,
something.
so
think
we're
they
doing
like
really
you to
great.
say 10 or
Okay.
13.
Yeah.
So technically, without spending any money, we'll be at 22 million with the 5 million coming out of capital outlays, what the state allows to do, correct?
a
I
little,
mean, not spending, not talking about anything spending, we technically will be at 22. So we're in like excellent shape compared to where we were at.
Yes, sir.
And that
years
makes
ago,
5% interest?
Which,
Okay, that's a lot.
so, I understand what you're saying, Larry, but we really have progressed. Of course, we're making a ton of money off interest because we got the huge projects going. Conservative budgeting, what the state has done. So I think, I agree with her. If we could get back, it's not our money, regardless of what you think, it's still the taxpayers' money. And just as we hurt with the high cost, so is some of our people. And if we give some of that back or get a plan with Chromebooks, I'm all for it. So,
Well, thanks for considering. It's good.
Okay.
well, and let's keep in mind too, that the raise that we put in place for this school year, we said we were gonna have to dip into contingency some to cover that as well, so.
What was that percentage? Do you remember?
correct, if we don't find any monies or cut any monies, I agree with you on that.
Can you say that
But
one?
I thought we talked about that we weren't gonna have to do that with the 7%.
If he was conservative budgeting.
Yeah.
So what I would,
Yeah.
what I would share with the board is, this is really good conversation, so, not tonight, but we'll be prepared in the coming weeks to have, obviously we'll have another meeting because we just got our property assessment values back, which impacts this FY '25, this current school year's budget. So you can see a big picture in terms of, because there's two different things we have to think about with revenues, new revenues, and reoccurring funds versus this is contingency or savings account, which is one-time monies.
Okay.
I think it would be nice to have Trey give us an update on, like, what do we have sitting in our schools right now? So, like, what the enrollment is at Crestwood Elementary School and how many Chromebooks they have, or what the enrollment is itself, and, yeah.
Or just like every middle school to high school have one-to-one. I think that'd be just something with this, just seeing how my kids do homework.
Didn't you have a lot to do with that, Dr. Smith, with North and projecting the middle school to the high school with the
When
Chromebook?
I got to North Middle in 2018, we were losing half of our Chromebooks. And so the board let us test using a leasing program with insurance, which is what parents told us they really wanted, for kids to be able to take the computer back and forth from home to school. We have continued that program through this school year. North High is interested in making it available to any student who might want to lease. But the $100 per student that Dr. Radford's talking about makes it very easy for schools to have plenty of Chromebooks on campus, and also for kids that have computers that they want to bring from home that are HP or PCs or Mac computers. They can do that as well and still be able to test. Testing is where it falls apart because you can only use a school device
That's what
to
the
test. So at the high schools, you've only got 150 computers, but everyone needs to take one of the standardized tests. They can't. They are on a 2-week schedule, which gets really cumbersome.
Yeah.
So we are creating a plan right now so all the high schools have enough computers that they can test with devices on campus that they own, using $100. And at middle schools, it depends on the campus, but we have a plan right now for middle school students to have access to computers every day, have Chromebooks every day.
Great.
Thank you. Okay,
Good
any other
stuff.
questions?
That was
No,
great.
it's good.
Good.
Yeah,
Were you
thank
nervous today?
You did good.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah, you did good, Carrie.
Watch out, Tom.
Okay, public expression. Two people signed up.
Look at me.
Yes, Larry, I'm looking at you.
Public participate in open meetings. The public and news media are permitted to attend all meetings of the board. No person may be required to give identification in order to attend any such meeting. The exception, the chairperson may impose conditions upon attendance at a given meeting only such conditions are required for the maintenance of order. The board as a whole shall have the final decision to the appropriateness of the rulings. Public comment period. Each regular meeting shall include a public comment period of at least 15 minutes. Any board rules and policies regarding conduct during school board meetings shall apply during the public comment period. Individuals or groups should contact the office of the superintendent prior to the next scheduled meeting in order to be considered for inclusion on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the board must first be recognized by the chairperson. Persons who wish to address an agenda item should seek recognition at the time the board considers that particular item. Persons who wish to address the board on a non-agenda concern are asked to seek recognition from the chairperson at the presentation item on the agenda. On the speakers, the chairperson may require the name and address of the speaker. The chairperson may rule on the relevance of the topic to the board agenda. The chairperson may establish time limits for speakers as may be required to maintain order and to ensure the expedient conduct of the board's business. The board as a whole shall have the final decision as to the appropriateness of the rulings. On non-agenda issues, the board will not take official action on non-agenda issues introduced by the public in the meeting at which they are first introduced.
Thank you, sir. Board members, we have 2 people signed up. What's your pleasure?
4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ron ain't gonna talk that long, so we're gonna hear this young man.
Patrick,
Patrick.
Patrick, you're up first.
Board members and superintendent, today I wanted to follow up on the conversation that I had back in, I believe it was May, on the addition of a non-voting student representative member to the Board of Education of Oldham County. I wanted to follow up and also display the value of what a non-voting representative could be of value to Oldham County. Before I give you an example, I have to ask, are you all familiar with 2023 House Bill 535? If not, I'll give you a summary. So the legislature passed a bill saying that each school district must either provide a half-credit course requirement on civics, I believe, yes, and or they give the civics test, which is composed of 100 questions, and we do the civics test as of right now. So we're kind of seeing a trend in civic engagement and the legislature wanting to engage youth in civics, and I personally think it's very important, as many of you know. So with approval of the board, a student representative can organize a district-wide civics day, which could pull together elected officials around Kentucky, including you all, to inspire and educate students about civics. This would create the next generation of political leaders from Oldham County, which is great for Oldham County. And also, it would please the Kentucky legislature, which could also lead to valuable things. There is also the Kentucky Civic Seal, which is a program headed by the state, and it would also allow for students to get recognition on their transcript or however you all deem possible, however you all want. And it would allow students from Oldham County to be recognized for their civic duty, which could also look good on their, say, their resumes, their college applications, which means that Oldham County students would be getting into better schools. All in all, a student representative would allow our county to be more civically engaged, and also it would show the voice of students. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
All right, Mr. Mann?
Let's see how long it's gonna take me.
You need a minute?
Yeah, I could use one. Except a frozen bottle of water at home. Anyway, name's Ron Mann. I was here last year in August. Does anybody remember me? I'm a school bus driver. Okay, and we discussed field trip pay. Okay? I didn't hear anything else until basically, what, April? When I found out that you all were going to bring whatever pay we were getting was going to be field trip pay. And I appreciate y'all doing that. Okay, really do.
I'm sure the other bus drivers do. I don't know how many bus drivers come in here during the year and have a gripe and talk to you all about anything. So I want to thank you all for getting that done. I was also asked, was I going to do field trips? I said, told the ladies in the office 5 years ago, I don't want field trips. I didn't do that for me. I did it for my fellow drivers. So that's where I still stand today. I don't want them. I had a full-time job, 41 years in construction, so I don't need that. So I'll take my 7.5 and be done. So anyway, what I'm here for today, transportation. Nobody in the transportation department knows I'm here, because I'm just taking this on myself. It has to do with the mechanics in that shop. They work all summer long, work all winter long, trying to keep our buses running. I've been in bus 1307 for 5 years now. Okay, it's had check engine lights come on every year. About 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the red check engine light comes on. Well, when it comes on, that bus don't move. You got to shut it down and hopefully it'll restart. Okay, the mechanic that fixed it, he's no longer with you all, and it has to do with pay. And that's it. Now, he told me what the problem was. It had wiring harness problems. So he fixed it the best he could, told me not to change the pedals in the bus, and I didn't. I put a big piece of yellow tape that's there today. Do not change foot pedals. Well, this year it happened again for the first time, November 12th. Service was the 14th, so I took it in on that Thursday. Well, in fact, they brought me a bus because it did the same thing. And when you got elementary kids on the bus, or any high school kids, that's not a good thing when you're sitting out in the middle of the road and the bus ain't moving. So they brought me another bus, finished it up. I got that bus back mid-April is when I got that bus back, okay? I watched a mechanic drive that bus for 3.5 weeks. It had a water problem also for 5 years, and they fixed that finally. But I drove that bus 2.5 days on my routes. No field trips, no nothing else. Broke down on me again, same thing, check engine light, red one. And the yellow ones come on too besides. And that's my point here today. They fixed it in 3 days, told me the bus was fixed. I got 20 minutes out of it before the check engine light came back on. And it was a wiring harness. So I just parked it, drove it back up after the morning run, parked it, said I'm not driving this bus no more, it's not safe. So that's my point. These guys work in the heat and everything else. And I got online and dug out this paper. Sure you all know, I don't know where these salaries come from as far as when you all started this, but it says, you know, experience over here on the left side. And you have to work 27 years basically to get $27.90. I mean, I worked for UPS as an outside contractor. I was making $52 18 years ago as an outside contractor. These guys need more money, and I want you all to look at this and figure out how you can get these gentlemen more money so we can get more bus driver mechanics in there. That's my point. We need more bus driver mechanics. And I know they got 3 or 4, and they've got a couple, you know, trainees, you might say. But who wants to come and work for $20.75? They have to furnish their own tools, but I was told a couple years ago, the supervisor told me, we bought 2 whole sets of tools. But that's what all mechanics do at every shop you go to. They have to buy their own tools. So somehow you all need to sit, get it in your budget to get these rates up for these guys to get more mechanics in there. Nobody wants to work, that's true. I'll go along with that. But, you know, I love driving a bus, but I also want one that's safe. And that's the only reason I'm here today. Like I said, nobody in that transportation department knows I'm here. And I just think you all need to take time out, try to figure out a way to get these rates up for these guys. The bus rates, well, they're not the best, but I'm not here for that. I'm for insurance only for my wife. So, you know, so that's it. So, I mean, you know, if you want to drive a bus at that rate, that's what you're driving at. So, you know, and that's, I've never had a problem with that, you know. So I appreciate also the $2 that you gave us last year. So, okay, I appreciate it. Everything, you know, helps. So anyway, that's all I have to say. But just trying to get it in y'all's heads, y'all need to raise that mechanics pay up. Because where you all sitting in an air-conditioned office, aren't you?
Well, we don't.
They're not in that shop.
We don't get paid, so.
Well, I figured you did, but you might have another job elsewhere. I don't know who gets paid besides him. You know, he probably does too. I don't know.
Is that Camaro for sale yet?
Which one?
And Any of them?
No, none of them are. My 66 Biscayne not for sale either. But if you see the rag that's out there that got rear-ended 2 weeks after school was out by a lady that didn't have insurance,
Miss,
didn't have a job, 25 years old. So
that sounds
it's been a long summer.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
Take care, y'all. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
See you around.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mann, thank you for sharing. Thank you. One thing I would typically, public expression is not designed for us to respond, but respect your thoughts. I'd encourage you to talk to Mr. Webb if you haven't about the follow-up in terms of how the bus and those kinds of things, but we'll do everything we can.
Well, they know about it because my supervisor asked me, she said, when she did my route run with me,
Sure.
she said, would you like a new bus? I said, no, I love my bus. I just wanted to run
Right. One other thing I would share with everyone in our, and thank you again for being here, is with our board, just a true scenario that we had occur is, Mr. Mann talked about this, the availability of people working in mechanics as an example. We had someone that was willing to come and work for us in the bus garage. Maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I see Mr. Dees there. He knows exactly probably what I'm getting ready to say. And so we had arranged for that gentleman or that person to come work for us. And his wife was already in our school system. His employer doubled his salary on the spot. So, and as a school district, we are not able or equipped to be able to deal with that. So, but I think that speaks to the concerns and what in terms of availability. So, we're trying everything we can to provide the very best supports and follow all the guidelines that we're required to do for bus mechanics and operations and safety. But certainly, we have openings, and we're really working hard to fill those.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have 2 action items.
Yes, ma'am. The first action item is the FY24 unaudited financial report, and that's going back to what you heard Ms. Alexander present on.
Board members, any questions? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mrs. Sheffer, seconded by Mrs. Clem. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Next up is FY25 fundraising.
Board members, questions? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mrs. Clem, seconded by Mrs. Sheffer. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Right?
And the remaining items are for informational purposes for our board members.
Awesome. Did you want to talk about that?
I think what I would share with our board is, as you heard Ms. Alexander present with our unaudited report, is that there's a carry forward balance, and I think that goes back to some of the conversations and questions that I heard. I see Mr. Dennis and Ms. Sheffer, but everyone asking questions about how we could utilize these opportunities to support our students, our community, our parents, and our staff moving forward. So I think we could have more conversations. We have another meeting that we're trying to schedule because of requests from our board members, and so there could be another opportunity for considerations. We've also talked about sharing updates and some reports and trying to put the best responses together based upon our conversation tonight.
So we need to reschedule our policy meeting, and could we also add talking about what to do with that surplus into that meeting? Is that what?
Yes, ma'am.
We're
We
thinking?
very
Okay.
well could.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything else? All right, sir.
I recommend that we adjourn.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? Made by Mrs. Sheffer, seconded by Mrs. Clem. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Good job.